Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Cold.
Yeah, we've got that here too. I think we just got above 32 a little bit ago.
I got the I got the thermostat on the heater set at 68. It's been running non-stop.
That's,
It won't cut off.
is it gas or is it electric?
Electric.
That's going to be expensive, but nothing you can do about it. It's a heat pump, which in this general part of the world is usually not bad. Just really cold days. Well, we use a good bit of electricity. But
Well, that and like I said with the doors, I can see daylight through the cracks of the sides of the doors. So
yeah, that
it's
probably needs.
not yeah, it's not sealed. And the windows, you can feel the draft blowing up through the window. Uh
Yeah, we've got that at our house, the windows part.
Well, where you
Uh,
lift it up and where it closes and you latch it, you can feel it coming up through that.
yeah,
When the wind blows, you feel it blowing the cold air in.
right. Hmm. Well, that that'll take time. They can't change all that overnight.
Well, I already got the permission to go get all the curtains and curtain rods, and that'll stop a lot of it because those heavyweight curtains will keep a lot of it from coming in.
Right. Yeah, I will.
Gentlemen, hello, good morning. Good to see
How
you all.
you doing? Good to
Mario,
see.
Beyond blessed. It's so good to see the Hamptons together. So good. All
hey,
Well,
right.
Mario, are you taking a class next quarter?
Um, that is a good question, brother. That is a good question. I'm looking forward to starting a new job that may got me a little restricted in time, so I may have to look into that, but I would love to. I'll tell you that.
what kind of job you starting, Mario?
I'm sorry, what's that, brother?
What what kind of job are you starting?
Well, brother, I'm graduating from law school in a few months,
Ah,
Oh,
right? I'm just aching, brother. I'm just itching to just start my career, and I've been looking into a few entry level jobs that are quite time consuming. So it's a lot related thing.
yeah, yeah.
Yes,
Well,
sir.
you have to keep us posted. Uh,
Sure
Taylor,
thing.
how you doing, Taylor? Well, he's on. I don't there.
All
Let's see.
right.
Chip, are you all right today? Uh, t- hey, Taylor, how you doing?
Doing good.
Good. All
Like I
right.
told you like I told you last week, my computer's slow. I heard you. It just wouldn't respond to my commands to turn the voice on.
that's okay. Um, I need it. You're one of the ones that asked, so I'll tell you and everybody else that's listening. All the first two lessons that I have had submitted to me, all the assignments are graded, and Everybody is well, I don't think they even gave a C, but they're C and above for sure. My problem is now, how do I post that so that you can know that? And I've got to talk to Dave. I am very illiterate when it comes to this LMS thing. So uh, be patient, I guess. Be my answer to that one. Uh, Hello, Francine. Hey, Chip, how you doing?
I'm great, brother. How are you?
I'm well.
Hey,
Good.
question for you. So
Okay.
with our prophetic paper,
Yes.
um, is it okay to not really mess with some of these last chapters and just do like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
was
you could.
working on 2 and 7,
Yeah.
the combination of
Yeah.
the two.
Let's see. I thought the assignment said it had to be the chapters 7 through 12, but that doesn't mean you have to cover every chapter. It
Right.
would mean uh, you wouldn't be allowed to go back to 2. You've kind of already done 2.
I
So
was really just using 2 to bounce off, the ideas in 7 because in essence it's just
okay.
reaffirming those ideas through different dream.
Yeah. That'd probably be all right. I hesitate to say it will be till I see. Don't overload on 2. Keep most of your stuff on 7. You should be able to do 8 as well, I would think,
Mm-hmm.
as you
Mm-hmm.
talk about that.
For sure.
All right. All right. We're ready to start Daniel chapter 11. Really, we're at verse 2 because we covered verse 1 last time. And now we're going to begin with verse 2. This is highly, highly predictive chapter, and it deals with a lot of things that people don't know about history. Now, if you would like a pretty good history of what this deals with, then you might want to read First Maccabees. I'm not telling you I think First Maccabees is canonical. I don't think it's canonical, but it is pretty good history, and it will help you in that. And I have somewhere up behind me here. I have an apocrypha, and an apocrypha would give you access to that. And I think they even have an apocrypha online. So if you want to look at some of that, you may find it helpful. This chapter deals with geopolitical upheaval, and really it's during the time between the testaments. So you've got Malachi writes in about 400, roughly, BC, and the next time any prophet of God speaks up at all is John the Baptist, and that's all the way down to at least 25 AD, at least that, maybe even 30, AD before he started speaking. So for 400 years, God was silent. His people didn't hear anything from him. This chapter explains what's going to happen. This is God's prediction. And I'm going to tell you something. As we go through here, there's a sense in which you're going to think that Daniel, with the help of God, by inspiration of God, wrote a newspaper for hundreds of years later, and he got every detail right. That is remarkable. It'd be like man, I don't. It would be like somebody in, let's say, the 1800s writing about Japan bombing Pearl Harbor. It'd be just, it's just totally unbelievable, really. Except that it is predictive prophecy, and God is looking down the road. Now, this is going to cause serious problems and does cause serious problems for the people who do not believe in predictive prophecy. I am not a big fan, generally speaking, of using the word liberal to refer to my brethren. I'm going to tell you why. Because it has no definition. I might say this guy is more liberal than me, and then there's another guy over here might say, well, I'm more liberal than him. So, but what does it mean? It doesn't mean anything. But in theological terms, it does mean something. A theological liberal does not believe in predictive prophecy. And because of that, I mean, he's got to make Daniel be written, guess when? About 100 BC instead of more nearly where it is in the 500 range. So he's got to do that because he doesn't believe in predictive prophecy. All right. Chapter 11 mentions the fall of the Persians, the coming of Alexander the Great. And see, Chip, this is one reason you may want to really look at chapter 11 before you finish your lesson. Because you got the fall of the Persians, the coming of Alexander the Great, the division of Alexander's empire into smaller regions, the contention between the kings of the north, that's the Seleucids, and the kings of the south, that's the Ptolemies, with Israel stuck in the middle. And Israel, you can just about imagine every time the Seleucids attack the Ptolemies or the Ptolemies attack the Seleucids, every time they do that, they've got to go through Israel to get there. It's like the highway, that they're going to use. That's what we're going to see in part as we go through this chapter. All right. The king in chapter 11, verse 36, I observe, is one that has already been considered. Your people would be physical Israel, as can be seen in 12:1. The time of the end, which is mentioned 8:17, 8:19, it seems to me is the same time that's dealt with in chapter 11, verse 35. Notice the time of the indignation, as in Isaiah 66:14. It was an appointed time for that which incurred God's wrath to end. God's wrath is going to come to a conclusion. So those are things to look for as we go through the chapter. All right, let's start with verse 2 of Daniel chapter 11. And now I will tell you the truth. Behold, 3 more kings will arise in Persia, and the 4th shall be far richer than them all. By his strength, through his riches, he shall stir up all against the realm of Greece. All right, 3 kings followed Cyrus. Cambyses the second, who ruled from 530 to 522 BC. Smerdis, who ruled from 522 to 521, not very long, as you can see. And then Darius, Histaspes Darius. In other words, it's not the Darius of chapter 5 that we've already seen in chapter 6, end of 5 and 6, of course. He's not that Darius. He's another one. That was not totally common, but a more common name in that area, and it's held by more than one person. The richest and one most involved with fighting the Greeks was this last fellow, Darius. In 480 BC, he led a major campaign, but was finally defeated at the Battle of Salamis. He was utterly destroyed in the Battle of Plataea. He is followed by Artaxerxes in 465 to 425 BC. But the 3 that are going to play a massive role in setting the stage, because this Darius that we talk about here, 521 to 486, gets the Greek nation so mad that when Alexander comes along, he's going to wipe them out. That's what he's going to do. He is not happy at all, because his dad, Alexander the Great's dad, was Philip of Macedon, and that's the man that took the brunt of what was done by Darius. So that sets the stage for what's coming later. Now, everybody, this is history, and I'm going really pretty quickly in my discussion of history. You may have to do some reading to be able to understand some of this stuff, because it moves right along through this chapter. All right, let's read verses 3 and 4. Then a mighty king shall arise, who shall rule with great dominion and do according to his will. And when he is arisen, his kingdom shall be broken up and divided toward the four winds of heaven, but not among his posterity, nor according to his dominion with which he ruled. For his kingdom shall be uprooted, even for others besides these. All right, Alexander the Great is the great king. He came along, defeated the Medo-Persian Empire, but he didn't live very long. He died in 323 BC, and his kingdom was actually divided among 5 generals initially, not 4, but 5. And what's going to happen is one of those generals is basically absorbed. His land's absorbed into one of the others. So that's what happens there. And God knows that. He anticipates that. And it's part of the revelation that we have here in Daniel. So we got Antipater, who is also known as Cassander. He ruled in Macedonia and Greece, but he was later murdered. He later murdered Roxana and Alexander's youngest son. Why? Well, think about it. Who might Greece turn to as the next great leader? They might overthrow all these generals and put Alexander's son in that spot. So how do you solve that? You kill his wife and you kill his son. And that, by the way, you'll see that in reference to especially Israel in the Old Testament. I'm talking about the northern tribes. They do that kind of thing all the time. Okay, then you got Lysimachus, who ruled in Thrace. You got Antigonus, who ruled in Asia Minor. He later was defeated when he tried to consolidate all under a single rule. He tried to put the kingdom back together, Greece back together, but he failed. And when he lost in 301 BC, his holdings were absorbed by the Seleucids. So, see, now we got 4. Instead of 5, we got 4. Because this Antigonus ends up being wiped out. Then we got Seleucus in Babylon, and we got Ptolemy in Egypt. The 2 critical kings in this group of generals are Seleucus and Ptolemy. They're going to be the dominant over time. And the others are going to rule, but they're going to fade largely from the scene. All right, so verses 5 and 6. Also, the king of the south shall become strong, as well as one of his princes, and he shall gain power over him and have dominion. His dominion shall be a great dominion. And at the end of some years, they shall join forces, for the daughter of the king of the south shall go to the king of the north to make an agreement. But she shall not retain the power of her authority, and neither he nor his authority shall stand. But she shall be given up with those who brought her, and with him who begot her, and with him who strengthened her in those times. Well, that's, like I say, we're writing a newspaper, but you got to know history to know what the newspaper says. because we don't live in that era. So to the south of Israel, thus he and his successors are known as the king of the south. This is Ptolemy. Ptolemy took over Egypt. Now you got to remember, Alexander the Great conquered a lot of territory. So here's Ptolemy down here in Egypt. He's the dominant one there. One of his former generals, Seleucus, eventually ruled more area than Ptolemy. Seleucus was given the area of Babylonia in the breakup of Alexander's kingdom, which included the area of Syria to the north of Israel, resulting in he and his successors being called King of the North. So we got King of the South, that's the Ptolemies. King of the North, that's Seleucus and all the ones that follow him. The brutal and blasphemous Antiochus Epiphanes IV was a Seleucid. And you'll want to remember that because it will come back up in this chapter, actually, that it will come up. Now, Antiochus is blasphemous in that he takes the name Epiphanes. And Epiphanes, as we're going to see later, basically means exalted one. And he called himself that. In other words, I'm Antiochus the God, is basically what he's saying. And that will become evident as we go along. So the Seleucids and Ptolemies fought for control. In 281 BC, Seleucus was murdered and succeeded by Antiochus I, who was succeeded by Antiochus II 20 years later. Now, where are we talking about? Talking about the north. If it's the Seleucids, it's north. It's up around Babylon, Assyria, up in that part of the world. And I hold my hand up because that's the way I differentiate myself. So you got the Mediterranean Sea is almost like a half moon, you might say, going this way up from the Mediterranean, going to the north and the east is Babylon and Assyria, and that's talking in old terms, but it puts us in the right place. And then as you come down around the curve, you go through Israel. That's on the main body of the curve, and then down on the lower edge to the southwest is Egypt, which the Ptolemies dominated. Right now we're talking about up here, the north. We're talking about what happened with the Seleucids. And we've seen now, real quickly, Seleucus gets murdered. He's succeeded by Antiochus I, who's succeeded by Antiochus II. And then Bernice, the daughter of Ptolemy II, married Antiochus II, who is also known as Theos. By the way, God is interesting. After divorcing Laodice and disinheriting her sons. So originally, Ptolemy the second was married to Laodice. You ever heard that name? Yeah, that's from the Revelation. Laodicea, that's her name coming in play there. But he divorced her and disinherited her sons. So her sons can't rule, not as far as he's concerned. When Philadelphus, who was Bernice's father, died in 261, he divorced Bernice and remarried Laodice. So you almost have to write all this out to follow what's going on, even right here. So you've got Ptolemy II, who divorces Laodice and marries Bernice. And Bernice is the daughter of a Seleucid, actually, a Seleucid named Philadelphus. And by the way, where does the word Philadelphus come up in the book of Revelation? Pretty much, Philadelphia. Yeah, pretty much. So you're seeing where all these names come from, all these different people. So he divorced Bernice because her dad's dead, and remarries Laodice. Laodice responded to that nice gesture on his part by poisoning him. And she encouraged her son, Seleucus II, to murder Bernice and her son. I mean, after all, that's a son of the former king who's now dead because she's poisoned him. And that son might be a threat to take over the kingdom. So how do you solve that problem? Well, just kill him. That's the easy answer. Just kill him. And then you won't have any problems with him. All right. Keep reading. Verses now are to 7 through 9 of Daniel chapter 11. But from a branch of her roots one shall arise in his place, who shall come with an army, enter the fortress of the king of the north, and deal with them and prevail. And he shall also carry their gods captive to Egypt, with their princes and their precious articles of silver and gold. And he shall continue for more years than the king of the north. Also, the king of the north shall come to the kingdom of the king of the south, but shall return to his own land. All right, what's he talking about? Ptolemy the third, who is called Ergetes, is the one in play now. Bernice called her brother, this is about 246 to 221 BC, to help support her son's claim to the throne. So come down here to help me, so that my son can take over rule of Egypt. He successfully attacked the northern kingdom in the Third Syrian War in 245. He took Antioch and Seleucia, that's two cities. The plunder from those areas was taken to Egypt. Seleucus II attacked the king of the south in 240. He regained much territory, but was ultimately defeated by Ptolemy III. Okay, so Seleucus, remember, the Seleucids are where? They're in the north, northeast. Where are the Ptolemies? They're in the southwest. So Bernice has gotten help. She has trying to get help for her son, and so they are attacked. They're attacked by the folks in the north, and that works for a short time, but then he's ultimately defeated. That Seleucus II is defeated by Ptolemy III. And again, if you hear Ptolemy, talking about Egypt, the south. If you hear Seleucus or the Seleucids, you're talking about the north. I'm trying to keep everybody in the game a little bit. Ptolemy the fourth, we're going to talk about him now. He picks up in verse 10. However, his sons shall stir up strife and assemble a multitude of great forces, and one shall certainly come and overwhelm and pass through. Then he shall return to his fortress and stir up strife. And the king of the south shall be moved with rage, and go out and fight with him, with the king of the north, who shall muster a great multitude. But the multitude shall be given into the hand of his enemy. And when he is taken away, the multitude, his heart will be lifted up, and he will be cast down, and he will cast down tens of thousands, but he will not prevail. All right, again, just talking about history. What do we got? These are the sons of Seleucus II, who waged war. Seleucus III was killed in a campaign in Asia Minor. All right, remember, Asia Minor's north. So that's where he's killed. He's killed fighting a war in Asia Minor. He's a Seleucid. Antiochus III, the Great, penetrated Galilee and Samaria. That's not too surprising. I told you that's right on the road. So that's where you're going to expect him to go. In 217, Ptolemy IV, who's called Philopator, engaged Antiochus III and his 70,000 troops in the Battle of Raphia. This last battle of the Fourth Syrian War resulted in the deaths of over 10,000 and returned control to the Ptolemies in 204. So now the South is dominant again. Pride and failure to press the battle meant the victory would not last. And I cannot tell you, you got some cases in the Old Testament where if kings would have pressed the battle, they wouldn't have had future trouble. But they don't press the battle. They'll draw back. People like to have peace, so they draw back and they think they've got it, and it lasts for a little while, but not very long. All right, this is all history, fellas and young lady. So I'll ask you if you got questions. I may or may not be able to answer them. It's pure history. All right. Now we're going to look at Antiochus III, also called the Great. Begin at verse 13. For the king of the north will return and muster a multitude greater than the former, and shall certainly come at the end of some years with a great army and much equipment. Now in those times many shall rise up against the king of the south. Also violent men of your people shall exalt themselves in fulfillment of the vision, but they shall fall. Now, your people would seem to me to be Daniel and the Israelites, so just keep that in mind. So the king of the north shall come and build a siege mound and take a fortified city, and the forces of the south shall not withstand him. Even his choice troops shall have no strength to resist. But he who comes against him shall do according to his own will, and no one shall stand against him. He shall stand in the glorious land with destruction in his power. I think I mentioned in this class sometime in the past, we sing a song. We used to. I don't know if I've not heard it in a long time, but we used to sing a song. Oh, Beulah land, sweet Beulah land. And Beulah land is the promised land. So here, when he talks about the glorious land, that's Beulah land, the glorious land, and this general they're talking about, that Daniel's hearing about, is going to stand in the promised land. He's going to be there. All right, now I want you to remember before we go any further with this, explaining it, that all of this is being told by the angel that came to Daniel. See, our Bibles have a chapter division between 10 and 11 that doesn't make any sense. Because in chapter 10, the angel comes to Daniel to explain everything to him. And then in chapter 11, the explanation continues. All right, so what do we learn here? Ptolemy the Fourth died mysteriously. That probably means somebody killed him, but we don't exactly know how. Maybe he was poisoned, maybe not. His 6-year-old son, Ptolemy the Fifth, Epiphanes, ruled from 204 to 180 BC. He came to the throne. The king of the north would raise a multitude of forces. Antiochus III initiated the 5th Syrian war. So they're going back and forth, fighting back and forth all the time. This is the 5th Syrian war. In the battle in 200, in the Battle of Panion, which we would call Caesarea Philippi, he took control of Palestine for the last time. So who is this? This is Antiochus the Third, who is able to do this. He proceeded to aggressively try to Hellenize the Jews. Now I cannot tell you all that's involved in that, but the point that Alexander the Great made was, if I can get people to be Hellenized, then they'll forevermore be Greeks. They'll defend us. They'll fight for us. And so Antiochus III comes along, and he decides to aggressively Hellenize the promised land, the land of Israel, so that it will become a permanent and solidly under his control. That's what he's trying to do. All right, Antiochus III comes to an end. We'll pick up at verse 17 of Daniel chapter 11. And there we find, he shall also set his face to enter with the strength of his whole kingdom, and upright ones with him. Thus shall he do. He shall give him the daughter of women to destroy it, but she shall not stand with him or be for him. After this he shall turn his face to the coastlands, and shall take many. But a ruler shall bring the reproach against them to an end, and with the reproach moved, he shall turn back on him. Then he shall turn his face toward the fortress of his own land, but he shall stumble and fall and not be found. All right. There was a marriage alliance with the Ptolemies. It was intended to neutralize them. Antiochus III wants to neutralize the Ptolemies. What better way to do that than to have a daughter marry one of their sons and become part of the family? However, his daughter, who is Cleopatra, now be very, very careful. There are multiple Cleopatras. See, most everybody, when they hear Cleopatra, they're thinking Mark Antony. And that's Caesar. That's on down the road. We're not there. This is another Cleopatra, okay? So don't, what they used to, I told you, they used to say at a baseball game, you can't tell the players without a program. Well, boy, that's true here. You can't tell which one of the Cleopatras you're talking about. Well, and this Cleopatra was a daughter of Antiochus III. She married Ptolemy V Epiphanes and allied with her husband rather than spy for her father. So Antiochus planned to get information from Cleopatra so that he would know how to keep the Ptolemies under control. But instead of that, Cleopatra said, no, I'm loyal to my husband. And she ends up helping him fight against her daddy in the battles. That's what's going on. Now, then Antiochus tries to keep Rome out of Asia Minor. He turned toward Greece in 192 BC. He lost 10,000 troops at Thermopylae, and he was defeated at sea, just like we would say SEAC. The Roman general Scipio outmaneuvered his poorly trained troops at Magnesia, 50 miles north of Ephesus, in 190 BC. And so guess what? They lost. Not surprising, because remember, if you go all the way back to chapter 2, what's going to happen? Rome's going to take over. Rome ultimately is going to take over all that the Greek kingdom entailed in days gone by. And that's what's getting ready to happen here at this point. So let's talk a little bit about the son of Antiochus. We're going to verse 20. There shall arise in his place one who imposes taxes on the glorious kingdom. That'd be Israel, remember. But within a few days he shall be destroyed, but not in anger or in battle. Well, he's going to die, but nobody's going to kill him in anger. He's not going to die in a battle. He's just going to die. That's interesting. So, Seleucus IV reigned from 187 to 175 BC. His reign was basically peaceful, except for his attempt to raise taxes in Israel. The Jews don't like taxes. If you've read the life of Jesus Christ, you'll remember that they asked him a question. Is it lawful to pay taxes to Rome? They don't want to pay taxes to Rome. And they're hoping he's going to give them a negative answer. No, it's not lawful to do that. Of course, Jesus goes down a totally different road. He asks whose inscription's on this coin, and they said Caesar, and he said, well, give to Caesar what belongs to him, and gives to God what belongs to him. That's his answer. So, in other words, you got to pay taxes. I don't like that either. In that regard, I'm on the same side as the Jews. I would prefer not to pay taxes, but Jesus said we have to, so we're going to pay taxes. Whatever they tax me. But he tried to raise taxes in Palestine. That didn't go well. Heliodonis was sent to seize money from the temple. He believed to have been hoarded by the anti-Seleucid factions. So that would mean that he's somehow tied to the Ptolemies. Before Onias III, the high priest, could get to Antioch to appeal the action, Seleucus IV was assassinated. Poisoned? Maybe. We don't know. He didn't die in war, and he didn't die in anger. How did he die? Well, he died because he got in the way of somebody. That's the easy answer. He died because he died by poison. Many historians see Antiochus IV Epiphanes as being behind, of all things, behind this assassination. And he may have been. Hard to tell. I guarantee you, if one historian says it one way, you can find another one says it a different way. I guarantee you, because we don't have enough information to make the determination. So, pick up at verse 21 of Daniel chapter 11. And in his place shall arise a vile person, to whom they will not give the honor of royalty, but he shall come in peaceably and seize the kingdom by intrigue. With the force of a flood, they shall be swept away from before him and be broken, and also the prince of the covenant. And after the league is made with him, he shall act deceitfully, for he shall come up and become strong with a number of people. Well, Antiochus IV, known as Epiphanes, reigned from 175 to 163 BC. These verses depict his rise to power. Though he is a brother to Seleucus IV, he used flattery to gain the throne. In other words, he's not really the rightful king. And you notice that God knows that. God includes that in what he has to say. He replaced Onias III as the high priest, who was murdered in 171 BC. Jason was put in place by Antiochus Epiphanes. He's not a Levite, but he paid the most money, so he got the job. All of a sudden now, the high priest is not a descendant of Aaron. He's actually the fellow that has the biggest bank account. That's all it is. He also offered cooperation in Hellenizing Judah. So he's perfect. He gives plenty of money, and he's going to Hellenize the Holy Land, as we now would call it, Beulah land. All right, verse 25, chapter 11. He shall stir up his power and his courage against the king of the south with a great army. And the king of the south shall be stirred up to battle with a very great and mighty army, but he shall not stand, for they shall devise plans against him. Yes, those who eat of the portion of his delicacies shall destroy him. His army shall be swept away, and many shall fall down slain. Both these kings' hearts shall be bent on evil, and they shall speak lies at the same table, but it shall not prosper, for the end will still be at the appointed time. While returning to his land with great riches, His heart shall be moved against the holy covenant, so he shall do damage and return to his own land. All right. This anticipates that Antiochus IV would wage war. Now, they don't call this Syrian war, they call this the First Egyptian War. Uh, Again, you can't tell the players out of program, so you got to tell what war are we talking about here. This is the First Egyptian War. In 169 BC, he defeated Ptolemy the Sixth, who is known as Philometor, who may have received bad advice by two who intended to undermine him. That's what it looks like in the biblical text. Antiochus Epiphanes captured Memphis, which was the capital at that time of the land of Egypt. They negotiated, but neither king intended to honor his agreement. Can't you see all these people sitting down at a table? They're negotiating peace, and everybody's lying to everybody. They don't intend to live up to what they're saying. They just want to get control. So Antiochus Epiphanes headed back toward Syria, and as he did, he came to Israel and he plundered the Jews. And that's roughly in September of 169 BC. All right. I want to read to help us a little bit. First Maccabees chapter 1, verses 20 to 25. And this is from the Revised Standard Version translation of it. After subduing Egypt, Antiochus returned in the 143rd year. He went up against Israel and came to Jerusalem with a strong force. He arrogantly entered the sanctuary and took the golden altar, the lampstand for the light, and all its utensils. He also took the table for the bread of the presence, the cups for drink offerings, the bowls, the golden censers, the curtain, the crowns, and the gold decoration on the front of the temple. He stripped it all off. He took the silver and the gold and the costly vessels. He took also the hidden treasures which he found. Taking them all, he departed to his own land. He committed deeds of murder and spoke with great arrogance. Israel mourned deeply in every community. You can see, again, that doesn't sound like scripture. It doesn't have the great poetry that God tends to use, but it does sound like pretty good history. And that's what it is. That First Maccabees 1, 20-25 describes exactly what Antiochus Epiphanes or Antiochus IV actually did. All right, it's anybody have a question or comment? I'm going to give you a little time to take a break.
Brother, is
Yes.
is this isn't this occasion I was reading some like regular history, and they threat Antioch Epiphanes on Egypt, making a circle in the ground and telling him go away, or we will call Rome to destroy you.
Yeah, and we'll see that. That's coming. Yeah, we're not
Yes.
quite there yet, but yeah, we're going to see that. Yes. Anybody else? All right, let's take about a 15-minute break, and then we'll close out today's class, finishing this chapter.
Hello, Ernest.
Taylor, is it your first class with the school?
Yes, I'm taking this and Minor Prophets 1 together.
Minor prophets at this point should be easier than this. Unless you're a real history buff. So who's teaching minor prophets? And
Eddie Fisher.
you said it's minor prophets 1? Is it divided into
Yes.
two classes? Okay.
Yeah, there's a guy in there now. He's already took Minor Prophets 2, but he said they didn't offer Minor Prophets 1 when he took 2, which I don't know.
Yeah,
That's
that's
above my
strange.
head.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
And I may have it backwards. I don't know.
I don't know.
The only reason I say that Daniel might be a little bit easier for me is because we're still focusing on one person, where the Minor Prophets are bouncing around to different people.
You keep getting a different prophet every time. Yeah, I get that part.
Yes, that was from Alan's Bible, the Next Gen Bible.
Okay, Nathan sent me. Apparently, Alan's got a list of the descendants of each one of these kings. Nathan, you might put that in the discussion notes. You might could. I don't know if you can add that. It says you can make it attach a file. So I haven't tried that, but you might see if you can help everybody out. Okay. All right, we're ready to go forward with the next couple of verses or next several verses. We're up to verse 29, and we're still talking about Antiochus the Fourth at this point. At the appointed time, he shall return and go toward the south, but it shall not be like the former or the latter. For ships from Cyprus shall come against him, therefore he shall be grieved, and return in rage against the holy covenant, and do damage. So he shall return and show regard for those who forsake the holy covenant. All right, this is what's known as the Second Egyptian War. It had very limited success. He did defeat Memphis and crowned himself as king of Egypt. But Ptolemy asked for help from Rome. David, there comes your what you were reading. Ships came from Cyprus, which is also known as Kittim, Kittim, as he reached Alexandria, and he withdrew humiliated. He wasn't ready to face the Romans. That's the simple answer to that. Antiochus vented frustration on Palestine. A rumor in Jerusalem said he had been killed. Jason, who'd been ousted by Menelaus, led a rebellion which may have led to Antiochus coming to put it down. Tens of thousands were killed, and the temple was looted. Whenever one of these kings, or even a fake king like Antiochus IV, gets angry, you can bet something bad's going to happen. All right, verse 31. And forces shall be mustered by him, and they shall defile the sanctuary fortress. Then they shall take away the daily sacrifices, and place there the abomination of desolation. what does this refer to? Well, it may refer to an image of Zeus being placed in the temple and offering a hog on the altar of burnt offering. That would be definitely would be against Jewish law. In December of 167, a systematic program for instituting Greek religious practices at the expense of Jewish ones began in earnest. And that's that BBC. That's a quote. So I got it from Bible Background Commentary, page 750. He forbade circumcision, he forbade the Sabbath, and he forbade festival observations. He's just basically ending the worship of God, at least according to the law of Moses. He's ending that worship. All right, begin at verse 32 now. Those who do wickedly against the covenant he shall corrupt with flattery. But the people who know their God shall be strong and carry out great exploits. And those of the people who understand shall instruct many. Yet for many days they shall fall by sword and flame, by captivity and plundering. Now when they fall, they shall be aided with a little help, but many shall join with them by intrigue. And some of those of understanding shall fall, to refine them, purify them, and make them white until the time of the end, because it is still for the appointed time. All right, Hellenization continued under the direction of Antiochus Epiphanes. Menelaus, the high priest, and others supported Antiochus in what he was trying to do, which means, by the way, that the high priest was violating the law himself. Of course, remember, he's not really a Levitical high priest anyway. So that may not be too surprising. Who are they opposed by? They were opposed by the Hasmonean family, Mattathias, John, Simon, Judas, Eliezer, and Jonathan. They killed Antiochus' envoy and they seized the small cities. They retook Jerusalem and purified the temple in December of 164. And by the way, I think Judas is also known as the Hammer. That's his nickname, the Hammer. So just, again, historical information, that's all. Verse 36. Then the king shall do according to his own will. He shall exalt and magnify himself above every god, shall speak blasphemies against the God of gods, and shall prosper till the wrath has been accomplished. For what has been determined shall be done. He shall regard neither the God of his fathers, nor the desire of women, nor regard any God, for he shall exalt himself above them all. But in their place he shall honor a God of fortresses, and a God which his fathers did not know. He shall honor with gold and silver, with precious stones, and pleasant things. Thus he shall act against the strongest fortresses, with a foreign God, which he shall acknowledge and advance its glory. And he shall cause them to rule over many, and divide the land for gain. Or Antiochus did not regard the old gods. Apollo was a former Seleucid rulers worshipped him, or Adonitis, the Ptolemies worshipped her. That's the goddess of women. So is it possible that these are the two gods that Daniel's talking about? I would say pretty good chance that's who it is. He exalted himself. He worshiped Zeus and designated himself as God manifest on coins. Antiochus Epiphanes. Fortresses may refer to Acra, a garrison joined to the Temple Mount for Syrian soldiers. And that may be what we're talking about. Hard to tell, to be sure. So the God he blasphemed, however, was the God of all history. A small band of resistance, the Maccabees, overthrew the mad king. Antiochus was killed in the battle in Persia in December of 164. Wrath, which is also translated indignation in verse 36, may be against the Hellenizing Jews or the blasphemous ruler, or it may be against both. We really don't know. But people were angry because of what was going on. All right. Let's look at the last few verses, 40 to 45. And as we do so, I want you to notice Barnes says there will be no difficulty in this if we regard these verses, 40 to 45, as containing a recapitulation or a summing up of the series of events with a statement of the manner in which they would close. So this may be a summary. If it is, then it's going to go back and recap everything, repeat things we've already heard. So just bear that in mind. At the time of the end, the king of the south shall attack him, and the king of the north shall come against him like a whirlwind, with chariots and horsemen, and with many ships. And he shall enter the countries, overwhelm them, and pass through. He shall also enter the glorious land, and many countries shall be overthrown. But these shall escape from his hand: Edom, Moab, and the prominent people of Ammon. He shall stretch out his hand against the countries, and the land of Egypt shall not escape. He shall have power over the treasures of gold and silver, and over all the precious things of Egypt. Also the Libyans and Ethiopians shall follow at his heels. But news from the east and the north shall trouble him. Therefore he shall go out with great fury to destroy and annihilate many. He shall plant the tents of his palace between the seas and the glorious holy mountain. Yet he shall come to his end, and no one will help him. All right. Jewish resistance ultimately led to the establishment of what's called the Hasmonean dynasty. Rome entered the picture in 63 BC when Pompey occupied the city of Jerusalem. From that point, Roman emperors held sway over Palestine, and so basically everything that we've seen is wrapped up with Rome taking control. All right, any questions or comments about the entire chapter? And I may be able to answer and I may not. All right, you have an assignment. I think it's due next Monday. And the assignment is to write a lesson. It does not have to be a sermon, everybody. It'd probably be easier to do it as a class lesson on predictive prophecy. Now, it may be easier to write on chapters 7 and 8 than it is to write on chapters 9 and 10 and 11. They get a little more complicated. However, as far as predictive prophecy, chapter 11 is just full of real stories. And if you wanted to just make a lesson out of that, it could be done, you know, and maybe the better lesson as far as the class would be concerned. But I'm going to leave that to you. I'm not dictating how it be done. The point is, the primary focus of the lesson should be centered in chapters 7 through 12. I'm not saying you can't refer to anything outside of those chapters. That would be foolish, you know, on my part. But what I am saying is that you should show that you've at least been exposed to these chapters, and you're trying to expose your class to these chapters. That's the idea. Any questions at all or comments?
Sure. So, Brother Hampton, my question is, you said that the brethren that um I don't want to put words into you, but that the brethren that rejected the idea of predictive prophecy, would you would consider them to be quite liberal. My question is, what is the alternative to
Yeah.
predictive prophecy? I thought that the whole point of prophecy was to be predictive. So what would those brethren preach
Okay.
or teach?
Okay. Well, first of all, Mario, if I didn't mean to say brethren, because liberal theology is what McGarvey was battling in his really it was two books, but they combined them to call it Christian Evidences. Just a second, let me grab that book, maybe. Its actual title is Evidences of Christianity by J.W. McGarvey. Okay, so he is battling liberal theologians. They're not necessarily our brethren. Okay, and the way he did it was he argued for the integrity of the New Testament book text. That's in part one, and the genuineness of the New Testament books in part two. The problem is when you throw out predictive prophecy, you run into trouble with, let's say, Jesus, who quotes Daniel. You also run into trouble with references to the prophet likened to Moses, that Jesus is that. Well, how can he be that? If there's no predictive prophecy, then it can't be right. So McGarvey will help you, at least to some extent, to see what liberal criticism led them to do, and it's really kind of wild, to be honest about it. It's uh, I I wouldn't dare predict what a sermon from one of them would look like because they've thrown too much out, and when you throw that much out, you got very little left to say. That doesn't help very much, but that's my answer.
Right, I
Anybody,
appreciate that.
yeah. Anybody else? Okay, I think that the lesson uh, on predictive prophecy is going to occupy a good bit of time. So I'm going to close class early today to give you time to work. Uh, don't waste extra time. You should have finished or should be about to finish all the videos from Brother Spruill down in Florida. Those are in the LMS. If you want to double check those, you should be able to finish those. And then please start writing on predictive prophecy. And if you get through with that, then the sovereignty of God will be the final uh, exam, so to speak. It will be another lesson developed on the sovereignty of God. It is to cover the entire book of Daniel. Show sovereignty means what? Anybody want to tell me what's sovereignty?
Absolute control.
Okay, yes, he rules over the kingdom of man. Now, chapter 4 of Daniel would be a great starting point because God rules in the kingdom of man. That'd be a great start. But can you show that God rules in chapter 1? And we did do that in class, so you should be able to do that. Chapter 2, can you show God rules? I think again, yes, you should be able to do that. 3, 4, 5, just keep going down the line. You ought to be able to show God's sovereignty virtually through the entire book, and that's why it's assigned the way that it is. Any questions or comments?
So just curious, it would be nice to kind of get some feedback on what we've done so far, so I know whether to repeat or to go back to the drawing board.
Well, I explained Taylor was the one that asked earlier in a previous class about I've graded everything now except I think Ernest has already submitted his on predictive prophecy, but I've graded everything that I've received. Now, most of
You
you,
happen to remember mine?
I remember yours. I'm not going to deal with it in open class,
Okay.
but uh, but I got to figure a way to get it to you. I thought there might be a way through the LMS, but I haven't found it. So I'm going to have to come up with another solution. In your case, I happen to have your email, so if I can scan it, I'll be able to send it to you. I hope before too long. I don't put a lot of notes. I mostly put, well, you need to tweak this, go this way, go that way. I wouldn't. Uh, well, if I was going to present as a class, I might look at those ideas and consider some modification. But as far as this class, the grade's already done. Nobody, as I said early in this class today, nobody failed at all. Nobody's gotten a D. I'm not even sure anybody got a C. If they did, it was still a pretty good C, strong. Remember, in this class, you've got 5 grades. You got the 4 papers and then participation. And the most everybody in here has participated in one way or another. The ones that are going to have the hardest time are obviously people that, for whatever reason, haven't been able to get on with us, and that is a limiting factor, obviously, and very not very helpful to me or to them as far as that part goes. Any other questions? All right, with no questions. Oh, you got one, Ernest. Ernest, go ahead.
Yeah, I think maybe this one may be a little bit off, but when you were talking about the Maccabees,
Yes.
I heard that you said during the destruction, they carried a lot of things from the temple, including precious metals, minerals, a lot of things that they carried. I want to know if maybe we can say that so during that time that they carried the Ark of Covenant in any way, because I think from that time we've not heard anything about the Ark of Covenant. So I want to know if maybe during that time the destruction that they carried it along, or maybe somewhere that we may not know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do not know where the Ark of the Covenant is. There's at least one fellow that made a fortune by making a movie about it, but I don't know. I don't know where it is, so I'm not of any help at all. My suspicion is, well, I don't really know. I just don't know when it actually disappeared. I couldn't tell you. They did. The people of Israel, unfortunately, didn't have a great regard for God and His law anyway. If you go all the way back, to Assyria conquering the north and then Babylon conquering the south, those people in general didn't have a great love for God. Now, there were good people, and you know that because of what Habakkuk wrote. Habakkuk makes it clear that there were some good people that he describes them as righteous people, but they were being tormented by the people that were bad people. So I wish I could answer you, Ernest. I'd like to know myself, but I guarantee you, if we knew where it was, somebody would worship it. And that's a good reason for it to be lost. Forget about it because they would worship it. Somebody would. They'd make a whole religion around it probably if they could find it. That's another reason I don't think you can find the body of Moses or or anything like that. I think men are inclined to worship whatever they can. All right, we will meet again on Wednesday. We'll do chapter 12. I may throw out some sermon ideas at that time, maybe even on the kingdom a little bit more and some things like that to help you. And then really the last two class periods, which will be next week, those two class periods I have devoted to letting you finish your requirements. So there'll be no excuse for I didn't have time. No, you got time. The question is, have you paid attention in class? And if you have, then you should be able to do it. And if you haven't, then you're in trouble. It's just, but not trouble for me. It's just you won't be able to do it. All right, everybody take care. See you Wednesday.
Thank you very much, brother. Bye bye, brother.
Bye-bye.
And sis.
Gary.